Hey guys, Crispy Bacon here with a bit of a different type of video guide. Today I'm going to be talking about Titans, and more specifically, barricades in PvP. Honestly, I think barricades can be just as good as, if not better than, the Hunter Dodge and the Warlock Rift. For a long time they've been the most underrated of the three class abilities, and in this video I'm going to show you a few ways that barricades can be used offensively to help kill your opponents. The video is going to be broken down into three main sections: basic functionality and, utilization of the barricade, then the barricade's lesser known offensive capabilities, and lastly we'll finish off with a few subclass and exotic armor synergies that really make Titans and this class ability stand out in the Crucible. If you do already understand kind of the basics of the barricade, I would recommend skipping forward to the aggressive strategies section if you want to get the most out of this video. So let's start out by covering the basics of the barricade. There are two types of barricades that Titans can choose from, namely the Towering Barricade and the Rally Barricade. We'll talk a bit more about the exact functionality of each in just a minute. Both types of barricades can block damage from all weapons and supers, and they disappear once they've blocked a threshold of damage or they've lasted their full duration. The lesser known fact here is that they can actually block damage from a Guardian's melee attacks. This is one of the main factors that I believe makes the barricade so underrated, and it's the main mechanic that we'll be leveraging in the aggressive strategy section of this video. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the two different types of barricades. First, we have the Rally Barricade. The Rallycade is about waist height, and if you want to actually mitigate incoming damage, you need to be crouching behind it. It's sometimes useful to stand on either of the far sides of the Rally Barricade, because as the image may suggest, it dips somewhat in the middle, leaving you a bit more exposed. By crouching up and down or aiming down sights when behind or near the Rallycade will actually reload your currently equipped weapon, which has some really useful applications that we'll discuss a bit later. The other barricade is known as the Towering Barricade or Tower Barricade. This one is much taller, more of a square boy than the Rally Barricade, allowing a Guardian to actually stand up behind it and mitigate damage from all sources without the need to crouch. That added protection does come at the cost of not being able to instantly reload your weapons like the Rally Barricade, so you lose out on a bit of utility there. My personal recommendation when it comes to PvP is the Towering Barricade. The Rally Barricade is just a bit too easy for Guardians to jump and shoot over, making it a bit less suited for protection and more suited to boss damage when you're playing PvE. The Rally Barricade is also a bit harder to utilize with the aggressive barricade strategy that we're going to be talking about in just a few minutes here. However, as you may have just seen, the Rally Barricade is great if you combo it with the Fighting Lion and get those instant reloads. You can actually make it rain exploding nuggets on some guys, and it's a really effective strategy to close off choke points and really gives your enemy very little option for rebuttal there. Now, all of this information is well and good, but we've now gotten to the meat and potatoes of this video, the important part that I really wanted to talk about. The reason I made this video. I wanted to talk about the offensive capabilities of the barricade. If you've been watching this gameplay, you've seen me kill multiple people using an intelligently placed barricade. And that's because if you stand in an enemy's barricade, you take damage. A barricade cannot kill an enemy player, but it can take their health down to almost nothing. Something we like to call absolute. Absolute in this case meaning any other follow-up damage would kill the opponent. So again, barricade can't kill by itself, but with follow-up damage you can use it to kill opponents extremely quickly. That's really the reason that I think Titan Barricades are so underrated, is because people do not think of them as a tool that you can use to help kill your opponents. You have to get out of this mindset that it's just a shield you hide behind. You have to use it as extra damage when an opponent is trying to kill you. If you're really low on health and an opponent is full on their health and they see you low, 9 out of 10 times they're going to try to rush you. They're going to see that you're low and they are going to be greedy enough for that kill that they will push you even when you're behind a barricade. And this is what we are leveraging here. If they run in and try to shoot you or melee you, they are putting themselves in a very difficult situation. If you are properly hiding behind your barricade, you can block their melee attack if they're going for a melee, or even their bullets if that's the case, and then you can melee them back. And assuming they took damage from standing in or around your barricade, you can turn that gunfight around. And it doesn't need to be just a melee. Melee is an extremely efficient way to finish off any opponent that steps into your barricade, partly because when you melee, it kind of displaces your character for just a second to get within reach of that melee hit, but then it kind of brings you back a little bit. So what you can do is actually melee from behind a barricade, and after that melee happens, your character kind of gets placed right back where it was prior, behind the barricade, 9 out of 10 times. And so that actually gives you an opportunity to basically do a completely safe melee attack where there's really no room for any rebuttal from the enemy. The most underrated scenario in my opinion is when you're low on health as a Titan, you can run into a corner, a corner of a room on any multiplayer map, turn around so that you're facing away from the corner, pop your barricade, and it basically makes this nice little enclosure for you where your opponent would have to jump over the barricade if they want to shoot you, or they'll have to run through it. So it basically makes this impenetrable fortress. And with that, you have the opportunity to heal, or you have the opportunity to capitalize on your opponent's mistakes if they get way too aggressive and try to push you. Because if you're close enough to your barricade, you're going to block any melee attack that they do and be able to follow up and insta-kill them. It's great. There's really no reason to not try this tactic, because barricade has such a low cooldown. You can pop them all the time, and there's really no risk. You may as well. If you think you're going to lose a gunfight or die, try this. Run into a corner, turn around and pop your barricade. There's really no risk in doing this. And worst case scenario, if the opponent does find a way to kill you, they're probably going to touch your barricade, and that means they're going to be taken down to absolute. Your teammates can finish them off, and you get the assist for that. So there's just really no downside to the strategy. For good examples of this actually being used, just feel free to watch the gameplay. I've got a lot of good examples that I provided. Should be repeating at this point now. These were the most impactful plays I feel like I made with the barricade, and good examples of normal experiences where it actually came in handy. I wasn't purposefully trying to leverage the barricade in these matches. I was just playing the match like normal, and I got into situations where I thought I was going to die, or I thought I was at a disadvantage, so I used this strategy, and it's very natural once you get used to it. The last thing I want to talk about before I shut up are a few synergies between subclasses and exotic armor pieces that really make this strategy shine and don't really change the way that you would normally play PvP as a Titan. Personally, I prefer Bottom Tree Sunbreaker when I'm implementing the strategy, because it has a multiple damage over time components to the subclass. First of all, the melee attack leaves a damage over time burn on your opponents, and this makes it so that if you punch someone and then run behind your barricade, if they challenge you and run into your barricade and take the damage that the barricade puts out, they will basically immediately die, because the barricade will take them down to absolute, and then that small damage over time will do that extra chunk of damage you need to just finish them off immediately. It's very satisfying when this happens. Another useful ability in this case for Sunbreakers is the Thermite Grenade. If you pop a Thermite Grenade in front of your barricade, it kind of makes this just impenetrable fortress of damage and makes it really hard for your opponents to challenge you, because if they step close to your barricade, they're going to take the barricade damage, and if they're in front of your barricade, they're going to take the damage from the Thermite Grenade. And Thermite Grenades do stick around for quite a long time, and it's easy for opponents to forget, step back, and get hit by that Thermite Grenade pulse. So that's extremely useful. And if your opponent dies to your melee or your Thermite Grenade, they're even going to leave a sunspot right in front of your barricade, and that makes it so that if another opponent comes for a follow-up, they're going to have to go through both your sunspot and your barricade if they want to try to kill you. And it just makes it so that if they're over-aggressive like that, they're really stupid, and they're really putting themselves in a bad situation. If you're inclined to use the other two subclasses on Titan, Void Wall Grenade is great on Sentinel Titan, and Pulse Grenade is great on Striker Titan. I just like the Thermite Grenade and Bottom Tree Sunbreaker because I think it all kind of synergizes pretty well. Last thing to mention is a few recommended exotic choices that I use. ACD Feedback Fence is always great for when your opponent does successfully melee you behind a barricade. Syntheseps are perfect for when you need that extra lunge range, and from behind a barricade, that range is extremely useful, comes in handy, as well as that extra damage if you're surrounded. Khepri's Horn's really good if you're using any solar, elemental, or heavy weapons, because you're going to get your barricade faster, and it actually leaves this kind of Thermite Grenade effect every time you put down the barricade, which can help do a bit of extra damage if that opponent's rushing you and they're being over aggressive. And finally, Crest of Alpha Loopy is always good. You get that extra orb generation on your super, and it gives you a little bit of health every time you put down your barricade, which is always useful. So that'll about do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Honestly, I really love doing this stuff. I like making videos, not trying to make it my career or anything, but I do really have a passion for Destiny and video creation and video games as a whole. So hope you guys find some value out of this, and hopefully you'll see more from me soon. Have a good one.